One of the ways of interpreting the 12 links of dependent arising is to see how they function in a single moment. So you probably know one can either see the 12 links in a situation or a series of events in life, or even from life to life, or just in a single moment. So in this particular video, I'm going to talk about how the 12 links manifest in a single moment, and that can be any moment of life, right? Nothing special, not a special moment, just any moment. And as I talk through the connections and the logic, maybe you can try and think of a particular situation, and see how this might apply to you. Does this make sense? Does this ring a bell in terms of your own experience? So there's a sutra in the Pali Canon called the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, which has the Buddha offering several clues as to how we can relate these 12 links to ourselves. And the general starting point of all the different clues he gives is that we start with craving. We ask ourselves what objects we crave. And we try to identify several concrete examples, or at least one concrete example, of what triggers craving and desire in our minds. So that's where we start. And once we've identified what that object might be, and of course there can be many different objects that stimulate our craving, but for the purposes of a reflection, you can just choose one as an example. So what we may well find is that the objects that we tend to crave are those that we, from experience, give us a feeling of pleasure. To take modern examples, we might feel pleasure from a cup of tea or coffee or a drink of Coca-Cola. We might feel pleasure from our favourite music, or from the sight of a handsome man or woman, or whatever. Whatever. We all have our own triggers for craving and desire. But in general, what we crave are things that bring us pleasure. So if we relate that moment to the 12 links, on the basis of our consciousness in this moment, the third link, and the 5 skandhas, the body and mind that we have right now, our senses, the 5th link, come into contact, the 6th link, with sense objects, right? So in other words, I'm here, I have my body and mind functioning, and I smell a cup of coffee. And then immediately, there's wonderful feelings that arise in me from the smell of this cup of coffee. So that contact, that sense contact, produces feeling, which in this case is pleasurable, because I like coffee. And when that feeling is pleasurable, it leads to craving, of wanting something. When the feeling is unpleasurable, it leads to the craving of not wanting something. But here we're talking about pleasure. So the pleasure brings the craving of wanting. And then after wanting, grasping, actually doing something to get it. And all this gives rise to the 10th link of existence, which denotes the creation of a new situation that did not exist before. So in this case, the situation might well be that you make a cup of coffee or take a cup of coffee and you sit down and you drink it. So that is a new situation that a few links ago, a few moments ago, did not exist. So that's why it's called existence. You've created something new. So the Buddha advises us to analyze all these feelings that are triggered by different things and people. So we are more aware of how our mind functions and what our triggers are, right? When we're aware of what triggers us, and when we're aware of what we really crave and what we really like, then we can bring that awareness into everyday situations, and we do not have to follow the craving mindlessly, right? So if this is my 10th cup of coffee this morning, then even though I love the smell of that cup of coffee, I might well tell myself, well, actually, enough is enough. I've had enough already, and I will not drink this cup of coffee. So you stop. You don't just simply follow the sense of pleasure that you are getting from this object. And that is only possible through mindfulness. Okay, otherwise we just follow thoughtlessly, and we just do it before we even realize we've done it. That's how we normally function. So bringing awareness into the process is the key to breaking down the causal chain of these 12 links. That is the way to gain personal freedom in life. And in particular, awareness of how craving functions is highly recommended because craving is one of the weakest links in the chain of the 12 links. Once we understand the nature of craving and what triggers it, and we're mindful when it arises, then craving itself will become less dominant and no longer something that just automatically determines our behavior, almost like a reflex. And at that point, the chain is broken. So this is key, right, for gaining personal freedom, so that our mind, our bodies, our speech, our actions are not determined by this whole chain of events that happens in our minds and which we are not in control of. So mindfulness is the main key for self-control and for knowing our minds and taming our minds and changing our behavior.